Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of the Centre Circle podcast, the new home for West Midlands football. I'm your host for the evening, Dale Nichols, and as always, I'm here to represent Wolves. Joining me today, we've got our usual 24-carat panel of Sam representing West Brom, Drew representing Aston Villa, and Alex representing Birmingham City. Coming up on today's show, we'll be discussing the weekend results as Aston Villa slumped to their 50th league defeat in 9 games. West Brom batter Burnley, despite being a man down for 2/3 of the game, and Wolves continue their resurgence with their 3rd win in 4 games, taking them up to 11th in the table. But what better place to start than at Hillsborough, where Birmingham City put in the performance of the weekend and reignited their season in a 6-pointer against Sheffield Wednesday, lifting them out of the relegation zone and showing the toughness and grit for what is the battle ahead. Alex, you've been crying out for this performance for weeks. Yesterday, the boys delivered. What was your verdict?
It was a sloppy game, really. It was a tough first half. I think both sides were nervous going into the game because we both needed to win. It was a massive 6-pointer. And like I say, it had a slow start. And we kind of settled into the game without really creating anything too much. And before you know it, the first half's over. And you're sitting there and it's just the same old Blues, can't really create anything. And the second half, we had a bit of luck with, I say luck, but it wasn't sending off. They went down to 10 men after 50 minutes. And that's when you have to go and win the game. And I was thinking, if we don't win this now, it's crucial. If we can't beat a poor Sheffield Wednesday team who were down to 10 men, then we deserve to go down. And Karanka actually made an attacking change, I think for the first time since he's been here. He took off a holding midfielder and put an attacking midfielder. And I think a minute or 2 minutes later, we scored a goal. And I was thinking, I know it's against 10 men, but if you just make attacking changes more often, we might actually create chances and go and win a game. But then 10 minutes after we went 1-0 up, he took off 2 wingers. This was on about 60 minutes. He took off both wingers and brought on 2 centre-halves. And I'm thinking, oh, my God, we're against 10 men. We've got to try and hold on to this 1-0 for the rest of the game. I think he tries his hardest to lose games or not win games. But, I mean, to be fair, the second half, we did play well. So, I mean, credit to the players. They did work hard. And I don't think their commitment has ever really been in question. It's, like I say, it's down to Karanka's tactics mainly for me. But, yeah, overall, it was a good performance and it was a much-needed win.
Yeah, huge win, to be honest. And shockingly, it's an ex-Villa player who got the winner.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't been scoring a lot lately, but he's been working hard and you can see he gets frustrated when he's not scoring. And it was, it kind of just glanced off him. It wasn't a neat finish, but it was across from Bella, I think it was, and it just kind of glanced off his shin. But you take him and the relief you could see, and then from then on, they were battling hard, and it was almost a typical Blues performance. We battle in games, and like I say, I don't think the players' commitment has really been in question. We just need to create more chances.
Well, I think I asked you 2 weeks ago on the first podcast that we did, and you were convinced you were going to go down. I'm going to ask you the same question again now. After yesterday, you've proved you know you're in it, you're there, you're going to battle to the end. Do you think that you can stay up?
Obviously, we can stay up. We're out the relegation zone as it stands, even though a couple of teams below us have got games in hand on us. It's tough. I just think Karanka's not learning from his mistakes. He keeps making the wrong changes. And I don't know, it feels like one of them. If we'd have lost, maybe they would have sacked him and we get a new manager in and then pull away from the relegation zone. So is he just doing enough to keep his job? I don't know. It's hard to call, but I'm still going to tip us for relegation because we did still struggle at the end of the day against a poor Wednesday side with 10 men. And Karanka's still making poor decisions. So I can't just change my tune now after one scrappy win.
No. I think you've got Norwich in your next. I'm just looking at your fixtures. Norwich, QPR, both home games though, so you'd expect to take something out of the games. I mean, I know Norwich
is top of the league.
Exactly,
but they're 7 points clear, and normally we play our best football against the good teams. So I was thinking, will they be complacent? 7 points clear? Will they take a back seat? I mean, that's all we can hope for, really, to get anything out of that game. I'll take a draw, obviously. But you look at the teams around us as well. I think Coventry won the weekend before we played. And I was looking at the league, and it just looked dire. And going into the Wednesday game, I was thinking, if we lose this game, it's 1 foot in the grave. So, like you say, it was a massive, massive win.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say Norwich at home, QPR at home. Ideally, you'd want to win one of them games. I mean, I know it's a big ask against Norwich, but they did only beat Rotherham by the single goal yesterday. So,
we need 4 points.
Are they bang at it? Who knows? And then obviously Huddersfield away, who had a good win yesterday as well, didn't they? I think they won 4-1.
Yeah. I think they've been on the slide though. Other than that win yesterday, I don't know where that came from. I think they've been in poor form. But
Preston
I think Rotherham played Sheffield
really.
Wednesday. Yeah.
Preston are shocking. I think they've got them. Have they got enough points on the board? Who knows? I mean, they could easily slide down there another 5 or 6 weeks of these kind of performances and results.
Yeah, I say there's a few teams down there, but teams just pick up results, whereas obviously other than yesterday, we don't. I don't know. There's a big chunk of the season still to be played, so I mean we could finish mid-table, we could finish rock bottom, but I just think Karanka needs to learn from his mistakes, really, and just making the wrong decisions all the time.
Yeah, I always think back to when we were in the Championship, and I always think, the pivotal sort of moment in the season usually tends to be around Easter weekend. You have the fixtures come thick and fast, and that sort of shapes your season from there on.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, that there's still a good chunk, still plenty of twists and turns to come. I'm pretty sure about that.
Yeah, and hopefully by then he'll actually know his best team. He changes the team every week, and he's still not playing 4-4-2 when I think it's clearly the way forward. We're playing poor teams at home, and he's playing one up top, and he's playing pretty 58 defensive players. But you never know, do you?
No. So, prediction for the midweek game against Norwich?
God, 0-0.
No. Wouldn't be a bad point.
I'd snap your hands off for it.
A cracking point, that would.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Okay, then so on to West Brom. Big performance yesterday. Massively unlucky not to take the 3 points. Mm-hmm. I think we know that you're down, but just wind the clock back 3 years ago. Can you finish strong? Take momentum into next season. Use that as a platform to rebuild and go again.
Yeah, I came away bitterly disappointed yesterday, and I should have been I'm really proud of the result, and I think we did really well, and we should have won the game. But I come back and I think, why couldn't we bring the players we did in summer? You look at that team yesterday, and that team is more than capable of staying up in the Premier League. You've got that midfield three of Conor Gallagher, and Ainsley Maitland-Niles is more than enough to keep you in the Premier League. And the performances these past couple of weeks, the United game, the Burnley game, have been fantastic. But we've left ourselves too much to do. And it's nice to see the boys doing it yesterday, especially down to 10 men. And I'll tell you what, how Burnley stay in the league year in, year out, I do not know. All right, they've got some players injured and some pretty key players. You look at the two up top, Wood and Barnes not playing yesterday. I think they had Vidra and J-Rod playing. I just don't know how they stay in the league. They're a terrible team. But moving back to West Brom then, I think the big point in the game was the sending off. I see on Twitter a lot of West Brom fans saying that's never a sending off. It's always a sending off. Why give the referee the decision to make in the first place? He's handled the ball with Vidra going through on goal. And all right, Semi Ajayi is quick, but how does the referee know that? And I think, Ajayi's got to take some of the blame on the goal. I think Gallagher passed it back to Ajayi and put him in trouble in the first place. Also got to take a bit of the blame. But from there on in, I think the boys did Big Sam really proud. And I think there's been questions in the last couple of weeks as to whether the boys are playing for Big Sam. I think they answered that in the Man United game and the Burnley game with a firm yes. I was really impressed yesterday with OK Yakusu. I think he's an unbelievable player. And I think I said on the pod the first time I spoke that, we've been crying out for a midfield enforcer ever since Claudio Jacob, really. And that's been quite a number of years now. He just bossed the game yesterday, and there's a viral clip doing the rounds at the moment of him just tackling people, and that's what you want. That's what that West Brom team needed. Unfortunately, we could see last year that Livermore and Sawyers weren't up to it, and we've kept the same two at the start of the Premier League, and they've been shocking. And some of the abuse they've been getting on social media is horrendous, but they've not been good at all. I thought Maitland-Niles played his best game for us yesterday. That run through to pass the ball to Diane, who squared it across to Pereira, who should have scored. I cannot believe he didn't score, to be honest. All he's got to do is stick his foot on it, and that's 1-0, and we win the game. Because let's be honest, Burnley weren't scoring in 10 games, were they, the way they played yesterday? Dale, I think you said to me you wouldn't mind taking him off our hands if we would go down. He looks to play, doesn't he?
Absolutely.
He can't finish, but he does everything else. He should have scored yesterday, so he played really well again. He gives us that focal point. There was a point in the game where he beat the man, came in on his inside, hit the ball on his left. I think it skinned the crossbar. He had to score that, but I can't fault him for anything else. I think he's been a brilliant addition since he came in. I tell you what, Kyle Bartley got a lot of stick last couple of years. He's been brilliant for us since he's been back in the team. He's been a real rock. I just thought we were fantastic yesterday, but it's just too little too late. It's just so frustrating looking back and thinking, where were these performances at the start of the season when we were getting dicked every other game? Where's the blame with that? I think the board's got to take some of the blame, but the more you look back in hindsight now at what Bilic did over the summer and the people that he brought in, I think you've got to give some of the blame to Bilic as well. We've been crying out for a striker, even in the Championship, since we lost J-Rod and Dwight Gale. We brought Callum Robinson in the swap deal with Ollie Burke, and you know what? Robinson's done fantastic. He was great in that Chelsea game where he had Thiago Silva on toast, to be honest. But I'm not sure he's a natural striker. And you can see with Diane coming in, we lump the ball up to him. It's the Big Sam way, but he holds the ball up and he gets other players into the game. I was a bit disappointed with Pereira yesterday. I think, obviously, I've alluded to he should have scored. He didn't, but he's not playing in his natural position. He's still a good player. He's been kind of forced out with the way that Big Sam plays. Connor Townsend, since he's come back at left back, I don't know what's happened to Kieran Gibbs. You're talking 10 years ago about Kieran Gibbs being a wonder kid. He's had a few good seasons at West Brom. He had a few good seasons at Arsenal. He's nowhere near the West Brom team now, and that's the decline in his career. We're a bit short at right back. I thought Furlong did okay. He's probably not the answer going forward. He'll do a job in the Championship, but if we go down, I'd fully expect us to go back up again next year. We've built the squad to go back up again. But all in all, I came away really disappointed, but on reflection, I thought we played really well. We did ourselves proud. Just too little, too late. And as you said, Dale, all we can do now is just, go up. We're going to go down, as you say, but just give ourselves a little momentum as we go down. Make sure we're not going down on a run of 10 games without a win. Go into the new season next year. We'll probably lose a few players, but I'd expect us to keep the nucleus of the squad and really just give ourselves that chance to just get straight back up. And then if we do come back up, I just want to see us spending a bit more wisely and a little bit more money.
What players do you think you will? You could or will lose?
Sam Johnson will go. So I think I said to the second podcast, he's in the final year of his deal. I wouldn't mind that. I think he was shaky last season, to be honest. He's been fantastic, probably our best player this season. But his distribution really annoys me. There's a couple of times yesterday where he just boots the ball out into touch. So if we can fetch, 7 to 10 million for Sam Johnston, he'll probably go to a Leeds, someone like that, who probably need a keeper with Meslier not really up to it. I wouldn't mind that at all. You may see Pereira go in. I'd be disappointed with that, to be honest. But it's inevitable. But then we've got Grady and Grant, who aren't getting a look in at the moment. They're going to come back into the team next year, and they'll probably play on both wings, respectively. If we could keep Diane next year, I doubt we will, because we're probably not going to want to pay his wages. That would be unbelievable.
I think you got Brighton at you next.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was a must-win. They're all must-wins now. I hope we win. I think we will beat Brighton. I think we'll start picking up results, but I don't know. We'll see.
No, like I said, I think probably quite surprisingly, I'd have to say I'd probably put you second on the list in terms of performances put in this weekend. I thought you did play really well yesterday. Obviously, aside with Birmingham picking up positive results. I know obviously we did on Friday night as well, but obviously we'll come on towards a little bit later. So Aston Villa, as mentioned earlier, 5 defeats in 9. No Grealish for the foreseeable future. What's going wrong, do you feel?
To be honest with you, I don't think it's sort of a, something that's sort of been over the last game or so. I think I mentioned on the first podcast that I don't think we played well since COVID. You know, we've kind of won games where we've gone, we should have lost that, and lost games where this, like today, I was sure it would have been about 4. Even when we're winning, I don't think the performances are great. I think you look at Arsenal. I think you look at the Southampton game, Newcastle to a certain degree. I don't think we got out of second gear, but I don't think you need to against those. As disrespectful as that sounds, I think that's how poorly they're playing at the moment. But I don't know, Jack or not today, I don't think we'd have won. And you know what? I think you look at the season, and whether you like it or not, Dale, I know you're not their biggest fan, but Leicester are now an established top 6 team for me. I think they, year in, year out, they put a fight up at the top end of the table. So if you look at that from where we finished last season to where kind of we are now, do you look at that game and go, it's a must win? I don't think you do. However, I think what's more disappointing is the sort of the level of performances. I don't think that you can honestly look at possibly the Man City game after the game after COVID is probably the only game that I think, yeah, I'm proud of the lads. Since then, it's not a worry. You know, I think again on the first podcast we spoke about, you said, where do you think you'll finish? And I said, I think 10th would be a phenomenal achievement. I know we're kind of the butt of everyone's jokes now because everyone, quite a lot of Villa fans got carried away, and we're talking Europe. I don't think I ever got carried away too much on that, so I've kind of held my hand up a little bit there and sort of kept my pride. But as I say, I think if we could still finish in the top 10, I think it would be a phenomenal position. You know, you look around it and you've got Arsenal below you, you've got Tottenham below you, and both of those 2 teams have played 2 more games than us. Granted, our 2 games are Tottenham and Everton, 2 tough fixtures, but you wouldn't exactly say that people are looking at Tottenham at the moment and worrying because they're playing poorly as well. In terms of ourselves, you know, I can accept losing. I just can't accept not running hard. I can't accept sort of, you know, competing. And I think that's how we built our base at the start of the season, and we just completely lost all of that. You know, the only positives I can take, again, I think I said the positives against last week against Brighton were that we would have lost that game. The positives today is that after going down 2-0 so early in the game, that last season, that would have been 4 or 5. So to even get a goal back and keep it sort of relatively competitive in the second half, and, you know, maybe could have snatched it, you know, that alone is a bit of a positive. But me personally, I think that I think Barkley's not working hard enough in the middle, and he's overloading our 2 other centre mids, and therefore I think our midfield is just getting absolutely run through at the minute. So I do think that maybe a few games on the bench for Barkley wouldn't do him any harm or the team any harm. We've seen other players come in like Marvelous Nakemba, and he's managed to sort of replicate those sort of performances that we've needed. And, you know, I think that might be the case against Leeds. I think you might find that Traore will get dropped. I think Trez comes in just for work rate alone. And I think either Douglas or McGinn will get dropped. And I think Marvelous comes in for them. But I just don't know if he's got enough about him to drop Barkley at the moment. Although, you know, you see him every day, time is going off. He's like a petulant child at the minute, kicking bottles and taking his shoes and socks off to walk around the pitch. It's a bit embarrassing, really. But, you know, as I say, it's not so much the results, because I think we have had quite a congested month. It's the level of performances, and I do get there's fatigue in there as well, and we are quite a slick squad. However, I don't know. I think we just kind of need to have a bit of a deep breath and reset, if I'm being honest. But again, I'll reiterate, without Jack, we'd have lost today. It was the same performance that we put in against Brighton last week with Jack. It was the same performance we put in against West Ham with Jack. It's just not good enough at the minute.
Am I on my own here, or would anyone blame Martinez for the second goal?
I'd blame him for both. I think he could have done better on both. I think he gets a strong hand on Maddison's. It wasn't exactly a venomous strike. Me personally, I think, and I think he was fantastic today, but Mings turned his back. Doesn't help.
It's called doing a dendonka, that is.
Yeah, and then Martinez gets a weak hand. Martinez has been absolutely phenomenal for us. So I'm everyone has a bad day, so I'm sure he'll hold his hand up. Second goal, I said the exact same thing. I do feel like if you can't keep it, you always push it out into a less dangerous area. And I think he just put it straight into the heart of into the box. I don't think the shot from Vardy was that venomous. I think he could have caught it, if I'm being honest. But I do think he could have done better on both, if I'm being completely honest. And but as I say, he's had a fantastic season, so we're all allowed one, I guess.
How big do you think the miss of Matty Cash is? For me, I think he was a bigger miss.
Bigger than Grealish
today. Yeah, agreed.
Bigger than Grealish. I think. I honestly think with the way that we play, I think if you've got two fullbacks in Target and Cash that will overlap, you can get that early ball in, and that's where Watkins' area. I think he scored like 90% of his goals from inside the 6-yard box. That is something that we can get better at without Grealish. I think sometimes he is guilty of taking an extra touch when he doesn't need to. Slows a play down at times. I think I said today, I think I was quite excited to see how we performed and let other players flourish. I think a few players did miss their chance today, like Barkley had a chance to sort of step up. I think, I think Target, it does well. But again, I think, when you've got Elmo on the other side, everything's expected for you to overlap. Elmo's never going to, I don't think in his career he's ever been an overlapping sort of fullback. He's always been a deep crosser. So again, if you're a Leicester sort of player today, you telegraph what Villa are doing. Target's going to overlap. You've got Elmo, who's going to probably miss most of the things that Barnes goes forward with, and he's going to try and cross from deep. Very predictable. Watkins is, he is what he is, but I just don't think we gave him enough today, to be honest. But I do think a lot of that is because a lot of the stuff we tried was down the left, and Cash is a massive miss for us in that area.
Yeah. Okay, then. So coming on to Wolves, then I'll just quickly touch on our performance from Friday night, and probably our current form in general as well. Really, I think you know what. Some of the things I'm going to say here might obviously tilt a few heads, but I thought the Friday actually we were much better going forward, and slowly but surely the performance level is returning. We've only conceded 4 goals in our last 6 games. We've got 3 sheets in amongst that. Before those 6 games, we'd only had 3 clean sheets all season. So I actually believe that's where the upturning forms come from. You stop leaking goals, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say that you'll start getting positive results. But I have been a critic of Nuno. He seems to still have the players on side, and the recent turning form, picking up results after, again, flirting with relegation or potential relegation battle, probably 6 or 7 games ago, was there. And so, credit where it's due. I'm still disappointed the way the cup game was thrown. But if we can finish this season strongly and positively, for me, it'll renew optimism going into our 4th year back in the top flight. And those years just seem to have flown by, really. We've got Newcastle next week before we've probably got a dead rubber away at Man City. So I think if we can go to Newcastle, get 3 points on the board, potentially could see us unthinkably enter the top half of the table, which again, after what we were flirting with the relegation battle, just seemed unthinkable to me. Friday's game, again, good to see Traore back at it. I think the second half at Southampton, Neto for me is just a god. But Traore again has been a bit of a positive. He's upturning form. The second half at Southampton, Friday night, he seemed way more up free. I just personally hope that between now and the end of the season, he can keep at this performance level so his stock will rise again. Because for me, that'll help us then to shift him on for a fair price. Because I think probably 5 or 6 games ago, we might have even struggled to get probably 25, 30 million for the guy. I don't even think anyone would have touched him for that. I'll be more than happy to see him moved on in the summer. And so if he can keep his performance levels high, it will keep, retain a decent price for him. There's no doubting that the guy can win a game, but he just doesn't do it often enough for me. He was outstanding last season. I think between him and Jimenez, they're the most involvement with goals together. Everyone's talking about Kane and Son this season and the way they've sort of blended together. I think Jimenez and Traore last season was only 2 goals less than what they've actually combined on this year. Would I say he's missed Jimenez? Or not necessarily. They're not strike partners as such. To answer your question, what do I think he's worth? I think 30 million. I think 30 million would be being completely honest. And it would be fair. It wouldn't be over asking, but we wouldn't be overvaluing.
I think he would have been worth more last season if you'd have sold him at the end of last season.
Absolutely.
I think you'd have got more for him.
100%. 100%. Considering that we got 40 million for Jota, I think that on the performance levels of last season, he could have gone for the same price.
I remember jokingly saying last year, Traore is the best player in the world.
No, he is exciting, but when he sulks, you don't want him on the pitch. You don't, and I feel like he'd be a nightmare teammate.
Can I just say something? He's played 24 matches this season. He hasn't racked up 1 goal or assist.
That's a stat, that is.
Hold on. For me, that's someone that you've brought in as your first year, like breaking through from the academy. You can accept it. He's putting in half decent performances. I'll put on record. I've never rated the bloke. I don't rate him at Wolves. Never rated him at Villa. I just don't see what it is. He runs the ball out of play more times than he keeps it in. He's very fast, but people just double up on him now. If he comes on as an impact player, fantastic. Yeah, last 10 minutes, you ain't got the legs, you can't catch him. He's a phenomenal talent in that respect, and maybe that's the sport he should have pursued. But for me, 24 matches, not 1 goal, not 1 assist in the Premier League this year. And let's face it, like the goal, if the crediting in the goal this week just gone. It's a bit of a joke, really. I'm sorry. I've just never been a fan of him. And if, like you say, if you could get 30 million, mate, I'll help you piggyback him wherever you need to go, mate. And I think all 4 of us might need that, to be fair.
I like him. I think, look what he did to Man City last season. I think he's a good player. He fits a certain style of team, though, doesn't he? I think he's a counter-attack player. Give him the ball, he'll run. I don't think he's going to be very tactically disciplined, to be honest. So he needs to be. He's almost like a Jamie Vardy on the wing, and he just legs it, beat your man. But I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's got to play in a right team.
Yeah,
what he is? He's like he could end up being a fouled winger, and he could be like a Kyle Walker who's crap defensively, but because he's so fast, he'll get himself out of it. He could end up find himself at a top club at right back where. For me, well, you say that, Dale.
I'm laughing because he's such a sulker. He's such a sulker. He would be an absolute liability in a back 4 or 5.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I'd rather him chasing a winger and actually getting praise for it than contributing nothing in 24 games, because that's what he's done.
I still think that, if he maintains his performance level between now and the end of the season, we could move him on for 30 million. And that is what I'm saying. That is exactly why I would be happy to see the back of him.
I think he's had one good game.
You are backing up my point. I
think he's had one good game.
He played his second fiddle to Podence and Neto. He's, if we've got a fully fit squad, he's not getting in the 11. Simple as that.
I think it depends which Adama you get. Like last season, he was so good. Like he added that final ball to his game. I remember when he was at Villa and when he was in the Championship. He'd just run. And like Drew said, he'd run it out of play or he'd try and whip the ball and he can't kick the ball. But last season, I think he was the full package. He's fast. He's bulked up. he added the final ball to his game. And I don't know what's happened this season, so depends if people can...
Okay. How about this then? So 2018-19, 29 matches, 2 goal involvements. 19-20, he had 13 goal involvements. This season, in 24 matches, he's had 0 goal involvements. So is he proving to just be a one season wonder? Now, granted, he has got attributes that you couldn't write down better. I think he's possibly the fastest player I've ever seen. However, you've got to have some. He's got literally 3 seconds when he stops at the byline to look up and pass, but he just doesn't. And he did that last season. Grant, he did, and I do think that Jimenez is a big miss for him. But he's got a fairly decent suitor in William Jose who does the same sort of thing. Really, he's good in the air. So if you put something at him, he'll win it for you.
I think the thing is, if you can coach that into him. I mean, how old is he? I know he's not young anymore.
He's getting older now.
He's got a few years in him, so you can still coach. You're never too old to be coached. If he goes somewhere and a coach grabs hold of him, he can add that to his game and become that player again, I think.
Same age as Grealish.
Yeah, it's 25?
Yeah.
So I actually thought he was older than that.
Am I?
Okay.
Remind you, he come to Villa when he was 18. So he's been at it since a young age, really.
Okay, then. So that concludes part 1 of episode 5 of the Centre Circle podcast. Join us in part 2, where we'll be discussing is the Premier League already won, Leicester City's top 4 credentials, and should Liverpool ditch the top 4 and focus solely on the Champions League?